Let me tell you something that most people will never admit to themselves. You already know what you need to do. You know you need to wake up earlier. You know you need to exercise. You know you need to read more, spend less, work harder, and stop making excuses. You already know all of this. So why aren't you doing it? That's the question nobody wants to sit with. Because the honest answer is uncomfortable. The honest answer forces you to look at yourself in a way that most people spend their entire lives running from. Here's the truth. Your problem is not a lack of information. Your problem is not a lack of motivation. Your problem is not that life has been unfair to you, although maybe it has. Your problem, the real problem, is that you have never learned how to be consistent. And until you fix that one thing, nothing else matters. Not the goals you set, not the plans you make, not the vision boards on your wall, none of it. Because without consistency, every single strategy fails, every single time. Today, we are going to fix that. I want you to think back to January. Any January. You made a decision, a real one. Something inside you said, this year is going to be different. This is the year I finally change. And for a few days, maybe even a few weeks, you were on fire. You were doing the work, you were showing up. You felt different, you felt like a different person. And then something happened. Maybe it was one bad day. Maybe it was a missed workout. Maybe it was a moment of weakness at 11 o'clock at night when you chose comfort over commitment. And then one missed day became two. Two became a week. And somewhere between the version of you that started and the version of you sitting here right now, you stopped. And here is what really hurts about that. It wasn't the first time, was it? You've started and stopped more times than you can count. Different goals, different plans, same result. And each time you stop, something happens inside you that's worse than the failure itself. You start to believe quietly in the back of your mind that maybe you're just not the kind of person who follows through. Maybe you're just not built for this. Let me stop you right there. That belief is a lie. But it's a lie that feels like the truth because you've seen the evidence so many times. And that's exactly why we need to go deeper today. Not surface level. Not another list of productivity tips. We need to go to the root. Because consistency doesn't fail in your schedule. Consistency fails in your psychology. Today I'm going to show you the 7 real reasons you keep breaking consistency. And I'm going to give you the exact fix for each one. Not theory, not philosophy, actionable, honest, direct. By the time we're done today, you are going to understand yourself at a level that most people never reach. And when you understand why you break, you gain the power to stop breaking. So let's begin. You're motivated by emotion, not decision. Here's the first reason you are not consistent, and this one is going to sting a little. You only show up when you feel like it. Now I know that sounds harsh, but think about it honestly. When did you start your last big goal? After a powerful video? After a conversation that fired you up? After a moment of pain that made you say, enough is enough? You were emotional, and that emotion felt like fuel, so you moved. But here's the problem with emotion as your engine. Emotion is weather. It changes every single day. Some mornings you wake up and you feel unstoppable. Other mornings you wake up and you feel like the ceiling is pressing down on you. And if your consistency depends on which version of you woke up today, you have already lost. The people who achieve extraordinary things in this life, they are not more motivated than you. They are not more inspired than you. They've simply made a different kind of decision. They decided that their actions would no longer be governed by how they feel. Write this down. Motivation gets you started. Decision keeps you going. There is a fundamental difference between those two things. Motivation is a feeling. Decision is a commitment. And commitment does not ask how you feel this morning. Commitment says, this is who I am now. This is what I do, period. The fix for this is simple but not easy. Before you begin anything, any new goal, any new habit, any new chapter, you must make a non-negotiable decision. Not a hopeful intention. Not a, I'm going to try. A decision. The kind you make with your whole self, and then close the door on every other option. Because here is what I have learned after studying human behavior for decades. The moment you leave the door open to quitting, you will walk through it, every single time. The moment you close that door, your entire psychology shifts. You stop asking, should I do this today, and start asking, how do I do this better today? That is the difference between someone who dabbles and someone who transforms. Your goals are too big and your systems are too small. The second reason you keep losing consistency is one of the most common traps I see, and almost nobody talks about it honestly. You set massive goals with no daily architecture to support them. You say, I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to build a business. I want to change my financial life completely. And those are beautiful goals. But then you wake up Monday morning and ask yourself, what do I actually do today? And you don't have a precise answer. So you do something, or you do nothing. And neither approach produces reliable results. Here is the truth about goals that most people don't want to hear. A goal without a daily system is just a wish. The most consistent people in the world are not more disciplined because they have stronger willpower. They are more consistent because they have removed the need for willpower. They have designed their days so carefully that showing up requires less effort than not showing up. Think about that for a moment. What if your environment, your schedule, and your daily structure were so specifically designed around your goal that breaking the habit was actually harder than keeping it? That is the level of intention you need to operate at. Here is the fix. Take your big goal and shrink it all the way down to one daily action. Just one. Something so specific, so small, so undeniable that you cannot look at it and say, I don't know what to do today. If your goal is to get fit, your daily action is not work out. Your daily action is put on your shoes at 6:30 a.m. and walk outside for 20 minutes. That's it. Non-negotiable. Rain, tired, busy, walk 20 minutes. If your goal is to build financial discipline, your daily action is not save more money. Your daily action is, at 8 p.m. every night, open your banking app and review exactly what you spent today. 5 minutes, every night. Specificity is the antidote to inconsistency. The more specific your daily action, the less your brain can negotiate with you. And that negotiation, that daily internal argument about whether to do the thing or not, that is where consistency goes to die. You're running from discomfort instead of through it. The third reason, and this one requires real honesty, is that you have been unconsciously designed by your own past to avoid discomfort. Every time something felt hard, you stopped. Every time the effort felt too great, you found a reason to rest. Every time the gap between where you are and where you want to be felt too wide, you retreated back to what was familiar. And that's not weakness, that is biology. Your brain is wired for survival, not for success. It treats discomfort as danger. And the moment you step outside your comfort zone, your brain sends signals designed to pull you back to safety. But here is the critical insight that changes everything. The discomfort you feel when you push through something hard, that is not a warning sign. That is a growth signal. That feeling of resistance, that internal friction, that voice that says, this is too hard, stop. That is the exact feeling that transformation lives on the other side of. Most people stop right there, right at the edge of the breakthrough, because the discomfort peaks just before the breakthrough arrives. And they interpret that peak as a sign to quit, when it is actually a sign that they are almost through. Write this down. The moment you most want to quit is the moment you are closest to changing. Here is the fix. You must deliberately practice discomfort in small doses every single day. Not dramatic suffering. Small, intentional discomfort. Wake up before you want to. Finish the workout when your body says stop 5 minutes early. Make the call you've been avoiding. Send the email you've been putting off. Every time you choose discomfort over comfort in a small moment, you are rewiring your brain's response to resistance. You are teaching your psychology a new language. You are building the neural architecture of a person who does not quit. And over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, that rewiring becomes your default. The person who used to run from hard things becomes the person who runs toward them. You have no identity anchor. This is the deepest reason. And most people never reach this level of self-understanding. You are inconsistent because you have not yet decided who you are, not what you want, not what you're working toward. Who you are, right now, today. Here is how this works in practice. Two people both decide to start exercising. The first person thinks, I am trying to get fit. The second person thinks, I am someone who exercises. That difference in thinking seems small. It is not small. It is everything. Because when the first person misses a day, their brain says, I failed at my goal, and failure feels shameful. So they avoid the shame by avoiding the goal, and the cycle of quitting begins. But when the second person misses a day, their brain says, "That was out of character for me. I am someone who exercises." And they get back to it. Not out of guilt, but out of identity. Because they are not trying to reach an external destination. They are expressing who they already believe themselves to be. This is why willpower never works long term. Willpower tries to force a behavior that conflicts with your identity. And your identity always wins. Always. Write this down. You will never consistently act in ways that contradict how you see yourself. The fix is to redesign your identity before you redesign your habits. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to write down 3 sentences, not goals, identities. I am someone who shows up every day regardless of how I feel. I am someone who keeps commitments to myself. I am someone who does the work when it is hard, especially when it is hard. Read those sentences every morning before you begin your day. Not as affirmations you hope will come true. Read them as facts about who you already are. Let your daily actions flow from that identity. And watch what happens to your consistency over the next 30 days. Your environment is quietly working against you. The 5th reason you are not consistent is one that almost nobody examines, and it is operating on you right now without your awareness. Your environment is designed for comfort, not for growth. Think about where you spend most of your hours. What do you see when you sit down to work? What is within arm's reach when you want to give up? Who is around you when you're tempted to quit? What conversations do you hear most often? Every single one of those things is either pulling you toward consistency or pulling you away from it. And most people have never intentionally designed their environment at all. They simply inherited it. And then they wonder why they can't stay consistent despite their best intentions. Here is something fascinating about human psychology. We like to believe that our decisions come from our character, that we make choices based on values and discipline and inner strength. But research tells a different story. The majority of human behavior is not driven by character. It is driven by context, by what is visible, accessible, and normal in the environment you inhabit. This is why the most disciplined people in the world don't rely on discipline alone. They engineer their surroundings to make the right behavior the path of least resistance. Here is the fix. Do an environment audit this week. Walk through your home, your workspace, your phone, your social circle, and ask one question about each element. Does this support the person I'm trying to become, or does it work against that person? Remove the friction from your good habits. Put your running shoes by the door the night before. Put the book on your pillow. Delete the apps that steal your time. Put the unhealthy food out of sight and the healthy food at eye level. Make the right choice the easy choice, not through willpower, but through design. And pay close attention to the people around you. Because nothing destroys consistency faster than being surrounded by people who are comfortable with mediocrity. You cannot fly at altitude when everyone around you is comfortable on the ground. You're measuring the wrong things. The 6th reason is subtle, but once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You are measuring your progress by results instead of by actions. And because results take time, weeks, months, sometimes years, you go long stretches feeling like nothing is working. And feeling like nothing is working is the most dangerous feeling for a person trying to build consistency. Because here is what happens. You do the work for 2 weeks. You don't see the result you expected. And your brain, which is always looking for evidence to justify its decisions, tells you, this isn't working. Why keep going? And you stop. Not because you failed, but because you measured wrong. Here is the truth about results. Results are lagging indicators. They show up after the work. Always after. The person who loses 20 pounds this month didn't build that result this month. They built it over the previous 90 days of decisions that seemed to produce nothing visible at the time. Every action you take today is a seed. And seeds do not grow overnight. They grow underground, invisibly, for weeks before anything breaks the surface. And if you dig up the seed every 3 days to check if it's growing, you will kill the very thing you planted. Write this down. Trust the process before you can see the progress. Here is the fix. Stop measuring your consistency by outcomes. Start measuring it by actions. Create a simple daily scorecard. Did I do the thing today? Yes or no? That's it. Track the streak. Protect the streak. Make showing up the victory, not the result of showing up. Because when you measure actions instead of outcomes, you always have evidence that you are succeeding. You did the thing today. That is a win. And winning every day, even in small ways, builds the psychological momentum that keeps consistency alive long enough for the results to finally arrive. You keep starting over instead of continuing. The seventh reason, and this one is perhaps the most important of all, every time you miss a day, you treat it like a catastrophe. You don't just miss a day, you quit. You restart. You begin again from zero. You go through the full emotional cycle of failure, shame, recommitment, excitement, and then eventually another quit. And this cycle is destroying you, not the missed days themselves, the response to the missed days. Here is something I want you to understand deeply. Missing one day does not break consistency. Missing one day and then quitting, that breaks consistency. The missed day is not the problem. The story you tell yourself about the missed day is the problem. The most consistent people in the world miss days. They get sick. They have crises. Life interrupts them just as it interrupts you. The difference is they have a rule, one they never break, that says, I never miss twice. One missed day is an accident. 2 missed days is the beginning of a new habit, and that new habit is called quitting. Write this down. Never miss twice. Ever this one rule, applied with absolute commitment, will do more for your long-term consistency than any system, any schedule, any accountability partner, because it removes the catastrophe from imperfection. It gives you permission to be human, while still holding you to a standard that will not allow you to unravel. Here is the fix. Before you begin any new commitment, write down what happens when you miss a day. Not if, when, because you will miss a day. Life guarantees it. So decide in advance, when I miss a day, I do not quit, I do not restart, I do not spiral. I simply refuse to miss the next one. And then I keep going exactly where I left off. That decision, made in advance, is what separates the person who builds a new life from the person who keeps planning to. Let me bring all of this together now. 7 reasons, 7 fixes. Let's make sure you leave here today with absolute clarity. You are inconsistent because you are driven by emotion instead of decision. Fix. Make the decision once, completely, and close the door on every other option. You are inconsistent because your goals have no daily architecture. Fix. Design one specific daily action so precise that your brain cannot negotiate its way out of it. You are inconsistent because you have been running from discomfort your entire life. Fix. Practice small discomfort deliberately every single day until resistance becomes your signal to accelerate instead of retreat. You are inconsistent because you have not anchored your behavior to a clear identity. Fix. Decide who you are before you decide what you will do, and let every action flow from that identity. You are inconsistent because your environment is quietly pulling you toward the path of least resistance. Fix. Engineer your surroundings so that the right behavior requires less effort than the wrong one. You are inconsistent because you are measuring results instead of actions. Fix. Track your actions daily, protect the streak, and trust that results are already building beneath the surface. And you are inconsistent because you treat every missed day as a reason to restart instead of a reason to continue. Fix. Never miss twice. Make that a law you live by without exception. Now here is the most important thing I will say today, and I want you to hear it deeply. Consistency is not a talent you either have or you don't. It is a skill, a learnable, buildable, developable skill. And like every skill, it gets stronger with practice. It gets stronger when you understand why you keep breaking. And it gets stronger when you apply a precise fix every single time. The person who becomes consistent does not do it because they found more motivation. They do it because they finally stopped leaving the door open for the version of themselves that quits. They close that door, and they refuse to open it again. Here's what I want to leave you with today. 6 months from now, you are going to be somewhere. The question is not whether time will pass. It will pass. The question is, who will you be when it does? Will you be the version of yourself that started and stopped again? Or will you be the version that finally kept going? That answer is not determined by what happens to you between now and then. It is determined by the decision you make in the next 60 seconds. Not tomorrow morning. Not after you finish this video and feel motivated. Right now. Decide that you are someone who is consistent, not someone trying to be. Someone who is. And then, the most important step of all. Go do the one thing you have been putting off. The one action you already know you need to take. Do it before the feeling fades. Do it while the decision is fresh. Because here is the final truth. Consistency is not built in the big dramatic moments of commitment. It is built in the quiet, ordinary, unsexy moments when nobody is watching and everything inside you is telling you to rest. And you do the work anyway. That is where character is forged. That is where the life you want is built. One decision at a time. One day at a time. Starting today. Go.